Hello boys and girls, and Happy New Year! This isn't a video I was particularly planning to make because this New Year's video is going to be much more exciting, but it's going to be New Year's Day, and so let's enter the new year in a controlled, calm and reasonable manner. So originally, this video was going to be about me getting started on a few jobs on the E46, but the weather, time and the postal service have not been on my side, so instead I'm going to be answering a question that a lot of people have asked. I've put a few things up on my social media about it and I've mentioned it a few times, but I've not fully told you all what on earth is going on with the Metros, especially Melody, because this is a big job that I've been undertaking. Because in late August, this car started making some horrendous gearbox related noises. And so, of course, the engine has come out, the gearbox has been rebuilt, it is all now back in the car, it's awaiting a clutch and flywheel assembly to go on the end, a starter motor, one engine mount, and then all the plumbing, and it'll be in and done. The reason it's taken me so long is partly because I've been lazy, partly because when I have got the motivation to come out here and start working, I've hit a snag, I've needed to buy something, I've needed to wait for the post, essentially, and then I've lost motivation and nothing's happened. So currently the garage around me is an absolute pigsty. There is just rubbish everywhere. Tools, cardboard, just bits of furniture and stuff that are around me. So nothing has been done. But you haven't seen anything about this little car or about Melvin's restoration, which I promised was coming this winter, because this engine scenario, it's just, been overwhelming and it's taken up all of my time. Well, not all my time, but it's taken up the garage and this car. I actually have a few videos of this car that I wanted to put out, but I can't because I've not finished recording them, and I need to get the car out of the garage to finish recording them. And the car can't leave the garage because it doesn't start. So all this stuff just kind of snowballs together to lead to no Metro content for the last few months. So there will be some coming, I promise, but this car has had some serious love. So of course you've all seen that this car's been serviced, it's been polished, and it's had the new wheels on it. New wheels look incredible, but it's not actually been to any shows. It's been to one local show actually, but it's not been to any proper national classic car shows because it's thrown a wobbly or just done something stupid, or I've wanted to take Melvin or whatever. So this car should have been at the NEC in March and it wasn't because I didn't pull my finger out and get it an MOT. So I've not treated this car anywhere near well enough. But hopefully once it is back on the road it'll be a lot better, because I've already shown it on my social media, so there's no spoilers here. But this car now has an MG interior, which looks ace. It's got red carpets. It's got a different steering wheel. I've painted the engine in its original shade of, well, not shade, just a generic engine red, which is how it should be. So this engine looks now a lot better. It's going to have an alloy rocker cover for an MG Metro. It's just going to be clean and tidied up. The bumpers are going to be painted. There's a video on me putting new headlamps in it that is delayed because I need the front ends of the car reassembled to do a conclusion. It's stuff like that, that when you're making videos, other things take over and stuff gets in the way, so that's not great. But because of this thing sat in the way, we haven't done any Melvin stuff either. I was hoping by this point the car would be stripped down and kind of ready for its bodywork restoration and ready for me to do the mechanical side of things. But that's not happened because of this little thing. So there's no point in me showing you Melvin because he's still sat outside in exactly the same place as he was a few months ago when I recorded a video about him coming off the road. He's just sat there, not moved, not been started or anything. He's just sat there collecting dust. So that's really annoying. But he will get there, and hopefully in January we'll get this thing going, and then I'll be able to bring Melvin in and we'll do loads of Melvin stuff. I also have coming a few parts collection missions in Melvin, for Melvin should I say, because with that car's restoration, it's not going to be a traditional restoration, it's going to be a resto mod. So there's going to be a lot that's changing on that car. Lots of little things. The style is still going to remain the same. It's still going to have those little hubcaps. It's still going to have the metal rear bumper. It's still going to be white. But under the skin, there's lots and lots of things that need changing. Well, not need changing, that I want to change. So it's going to have a new engine, 16 valves, all that kind of stuff. And there's loads and loads of little parts that at least I find really, really interesting. They're all the little things that kind of make a car special and make a car unique. And because, you know, these parts are relatively hard to find, we're going to be going on some adventures. So hopefully you'll come with me as we go across the country and go and gather really quite interesting bits from Melvin. Some of them are donors from other cars. So I'll put a picture on screen now. A couple of weeks ago I went stripping not in that way, I went to strip a Metro GSI for a few of its bits. A few nice bits that are going to end up on Melvin. There's a friend of mine who unfortunately crashed his Metro, but it was a really, really clean, rust-free shell. And so some of the unbent bits of that shell are coming my way for Melvin. So slowly, before we actually get Melvin restored, we're going to gather all the bits that we need in order to A, make the shell rust free, because that's the most important thing. That's why I brought the car in to be restored at the end of the day. And secondly, to make the car unique. All the really rare little components that you don't usually find on a Metro like Melvin, but that will be installed. So things like metal door handles and pop-out rear windows and all these little tiny bits that sound, you know, slightly uninspiring on their own, but when they come together into the car, it is so different to a normal Metro, so that's going to be really fun. But with Melody still sat here in this position, I think I'll move the camera and give you a little walk round of exactly what's going on in this engine bay. There's a little teaser for that video series that's coming up, because there'll be, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos maybe on this entire project of us stripping down the gearbox and rebuilding it and all that kind of stuff, having the engine out of the car and all this good stuff. Exhaust, for example, as well, that's something that's been done. So, as a little bit of a teaser, because it will still be a little while before those videos come out, and because there's no other Metro content to come first, let's treat this as a little kind of teaser for what is coming up. I'll take you for a little tour around Melody's engine bay. So at the moment, this engine bay is looking very barren. There's not really much going on here. There's no plumbing, no mounting for any of the bits of the car, doesn't even have a clutch. There's an engine mount missing down here, but this all came out, as I said, to do the gearbox rebuild, because that was the necessary thing. And while everything's out, there's no point in, you know, kind of not doing all the other things. So while we're here, I've given the engine bay a really, really good clean up, which we'll see. As I mentioned, I've painted the engine. Having had the engine and the gearbox apart means that I can get round the engine properly. I can remove all of the ancillaries, like, of course, the alternator, but I can remove all the plug leads. I can remove the flywheel casing from the side of the engine. I can remove the fuel pump from the back. The exhaust can be gone. The inlet manifold and the carburettor, which are up there, they can be gone. And you can really get round the engine and see what's going on for once, which is really, really interesting. So this engine bay now, and the subframe, of course, that's another thing that you can't really access with everything in place, all looks really, really nice. There are some things I've not addressed, like the sealant around the brake servo panel and the heater box panel, but they're a massive faff to do. Realistically, they're a dashboard out job, so I'm not bothering with that. But generally, this is all in so much better order than it was when you would have last seen it. When you would have last seen it, if any of you care to remember even, will probably be when I was servicing it. And at the time, this engine bay was absolutely filthy. And a number of you said actually that when I removed the alternator, why didn't I really clean up around the alternator when I had it off? And yeah, I should have done. But now we're in this position, we've got everything to do. Well, we've done everything, should I say now, so it just looks a heck of a lot better. So while I have come across a few issues in doing this build, I mean, I say build, it's not really a build, it's just a little project, isn't it? But In doing this, of course, I've never done anything like this before, so there are some things that have come as a surprise, some things that have taken a bit more time. Like I ended up having to take the gearbox, or the engine off the top of the gearbox, twice, I think, or maybe even 3 times. I'll have to have a look when I go back and actually edit the final videos, but it's been on and off a multitude of times. It took me an age to get the engine back in the car, just because I've never done it before, and you're going to have these issues when you've never done something before. But what we're waiting for now, the only thing that's stopping this from getting going, is for me to put the clutch and flywheel assembly on the end of the crankshaft here. Now, the A-Series engine, of course, the front-wheel drive one in this layout at least, has the engine on top of the gearbox. So within here, within this casing, you have a set of drop gears that drop the drive down from the crankshaft to the gearbox. So the clutch is a really easy part to change, because he's literally just sat on the end here, and then on that you have this, people call it the wok, that just goes on there. So it's a very, it's kind of quite DIY friendly in a way, this. But when I sent my old, I went and exchanged my old clutch for a new one, because, well, it's out, I might as well put a new clutch on it. But unfortunately, having never done this before, I accidentally sent away the central flywheel boss that allows you to bolt the clutch on itself into the centre there. Now, I didn't know I didn't get that with the exchange, but I sent it off, and then the one I got, I didn't have it. So when I tried to assemble it off the car, I realised I couldn't bolt the clutch and flywheel to the side of the engine and gearbox. But that's the thing, that's a beginner's thing, rookie mistake, but now I've got it back, I can do it. So I'll put a picture on the screen now of what I was doing on Boxing Day, because that's infinitely interesting and infinitely family friendly. For me to scurry away into my granddad's garage and borrow his vise so I could bolt the flywheel boss to the flywheel itself. Or to the pressure plate, actually, should I say. But anyway, once we get that back, we'll be able to put it on, put the starter motor on, put the wok on, and then everything in this kind of area should be together. Oh, actually, we need to put an engine mount on there. That is that bit there. I don't know which way around that goes. Slightly different way. But yeah, that goes there. And then it all goes together, and we should have drive again. And then I'll plumb everything back together, and we should be golden. So with all this work that I've kind of done on the car now, apart from just the wheels which were already on it, I think I've thoroughly changed the character of this car from being a very normal and slightly unloved in many ways 5-door Metro. And the 5-door is a big part of this, because I don't think, I must be one of very few people to have ever put this much effort and love into a 5-door Metro. Just because the 3 doors are more desirable, for obvious reasons. So it's interesting in its own way, this car, and it's gone from being a very normal Metro with a few modifications to it when I bought it, to being a bit of a show car now, because it does stand out now. Not just with the wheels, but with the interior, and when you lift the bonnet it'll have a really clean engine bay, apart from those panels. Oh well, can't fix what other people have done. But yeah, I think this car is going to turn into something a little bit special. I didn't envision this happening when I got the car, but it just seems to have gone this way, with Melvin looking very original. I thought, let's do something a bit mad, and so here we are. This has dragged on for a really long time now, this engine gearbox thing, but that's just how the cookie crumbles in the old car world. However many of you sitting watching this have done things like this before will know that it does just end up dragging out. Not because you've done anything wrong, but just time. It just happens. So there will be some Metro content coming very soon. You'll know once I finish this, because the Metro content will resume almost instantly. And hopefully that's sooner rather than later. Early this month, I'm hoping, providing everything goes well, of course. So with that, there will be more Metro content coming. There will be more E46 content coming. And once Melvin is here, he's going to turn into such a cool project. I hope you all enjoy what's coming with Melvin, because it's going to be really in-depth, really nerdy, and incredibly niche. So you've got to be a proper nerd to watch any of this. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If somehow you enjoyed 15 minutes of watching me rant about a Metro that doesn't work, then do please click like and subscribe to TwinCam as well. I'm always indebted to my wonderful Patreon supporters, so if you'd like to support me that way, then please do follow the link in the description. Massive help when we come to restoring Melvin, because that's going to cost. But loads of videos coming, so I'll have more videos coming along very soon.